Imagine this. You're young, vulnerable, and expecting your first child. You turn to the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally, your parents, only for them to turn their backs on you. They kick you out, leaving you with nowhere to go, no support, and a baby on the way. But years later, when they hear about their grandkids, they suddenly want to be part of your life again. Would you let them back in? This is my story. The living room was always warm, a cozy haven, yet even as a child, a chill permeated the air. I remember playing with my dolls, meticulously arranging them while my parents observed with a critical eye. "Straighten your posture," my mother would say, her voice a gentle reprimand. "Remember, appearances are everything." My father, ever the taskmaster, would add, "And focus on your studies." Nothing less than excellence. I would nod a quiet, "Yes, Mom, yes, Dad," escaping my lips. But inside, a sense of unspoken sadness lingered. Even as a child, I understood the unspoken rule. Perfection was the only acceptable standard. The warm glow of the room couldn't mask the underlying tension, a constant reminder of the expectations I had to meet, the image I had to uphold. The weight of the pregnancy test felt heavier than anything I had ever held. Standing in the familiar hallway of my childhood home, now slightly modernized, I knew my life was about to shatter. "Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something," I began, my voice trembling, barely a whisper. My father, impatient as always, responded, "What is it? Make it quick." The words tumbled out. "I'm pregnant." My mother gasped, tears welling up, but not the comforting kind. It was a sound of devastation, of personal ruin. My father's face flushed crimson with anger, his voice rising. "Unbelievable. After everything we've done for you," I pleaded. "Please, I need you. I don't know what to do." His response was cold, unyielding. "You have two options. Either you give up this baby or you leave." My mother's tears flowed freely, not for me, but for the life she perceived I was destroying. "You've ruined everything. You've ruined your life. You've ruined our reputation." The room, once a sanctuary, now felt like a suffocating cage. My bedroom, once a refuge, was now stripped bare, a desolate space. I packed a small bag, tears streaming down my face, each item a painful reminder of what I was losing. There was little to say, just the sound of my sobs and the rustle of clothes being shoved into a bag. A framed photo of my younger self caught my eye, a happy, innocent child, oblivious to the heartbreak that awaited her. With a final trembling breath, I walked out the front door into the cold, unforgiving night. That night, I lost everything I thought I knew about family, about love, about belonging. The days that followed were a blur of desperation and exhaustion. A cramped motel room, its peeling wallpaper a stark contrast to my childhood home, became my temporary refuge. "Rent's due, honey," the motel clerk would say, her voice devoid of sympathy. "I'll have it tomorrow, I promise," I'd reply, my voice barely above a whisper. Couch surfing at a friend's dorm, I was a burden, a constant reminder of their own precarious existence. "You can stay here for a few days, but my roommate isn't happy," my friend would say, her words laced with guilt. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you," I'd respond, my gratitude mixed with shame. Phone conversations with my boyfriend were strained, filled with promises we couldn't keep. "I'm trying, I promise. I'm trying to make ends meet." Amidst the despair, I would rub my pregnant belly, a flicker of hope igniting within me, a reminder of the life growing inside, the reason to keep fighting. The sterile white of the hospital room was a stark contrast to the chaos of labor. Each contraction was a wave of pain, but also a step closer to meeting my son. Then, the sound of his first cry, a tiny, powerful sound that filled the room. "It's a boy!" the nurse announced, and tears of joy streamed down my face. "My son," I whispered, my voice thick with emotion. The pain vanished, replaced by an overwhelming sense of love and protectiveness. Close-ups on his tiny face, then on my exhausted but radiant face, captured the essence of that moment. The room, bathed in soft, warm light, felt like a sanctuary, a place where only love existed. My small apartment, cluttered with baby toys and books, became my fortress. I juggled work and studies, determined to provide a better life for my son. "Yes, I can work evenings. I have childcare," I'd say on the phone, my voice filled with a newfound strength. You're doing excellent work considering your circumstances, my professor would acknowledge. But I didn't want pity. I wanted respect. Mommy loves you more than anything, I'd whisper to my son, his giggles filling the small space. Time passed, marked by milestones and challenges, but also by moments of pure joy. I worked hard, I studied hard, and I learned to be independent, to be strong. I became a mother my child could be proud of. Years later, I had built a life, a career, a sense of self. My apartment, now a reflection of my success, was a testament to my resilience. Then, the unexpected buzz of my phone, a message from Mom flashing on the screen. I heard you had kids. We love to meet our grandchildren. The words felt like a slap, a cruel joke. After all these years, after abandoning me in my most vulnerable moment, they suddenly wanted to be a part of my life. The audacity of it, the sheer nerve, left me reeling, a mix of shock and anger churning within me. My apartment, usually a haven of peace, became a battleground for my conflicting emotions. I paced, my thoughts swirling, a tempest of, do I let them back in? Can I forgive them? The questions echoed in my mind, each one a painful reminder of the past. They abandoned me. They don't deserve to know my children, I told myself, trying to harden my heart. But then a flicker of doubt, but their family, maybe they've changed, maybe... I looked at photos of my children, their innocent faces, a stark contrast to the pain I carried. I looked at a photo of my younger self, a vulnerable girl betrayed by those she trusted. The battle between my heart and my head was tearing me apart, a constant struggle between forgiveness and self-preservation. The quiet cafe felt charged with unspoken emotions. My mother, her eyes red and swollen, began, protagonist's name, I'm so sorry. My father, his posture awkward, echoed her sentiment. We made a mistake. We regret it every day. My voice, though calm, was laced with years of pain. You kicked me out. You left me to fend for myself. My mother's tears flowed again. We were wrong. We were so afraid of what people would think. And what about me? What about your grandchild? I asked, my voice trembling slightly. They asked about the children, about my life, trying to bridge the gap of years, but the atmosphere remained tense, a fragile truce built on a foundation of unresolved pain. Back in my apartment, I sat with my son, his innocent eyes looking up at me. Grandma and Grandpa want to see you again, I told him, my voice gentle. Are they nice? He asked, his question simple yet profound. They're trying to be, I replied, choosing my words carefully. I hugged him tightly, a fierce protectiveness surging through me. I will always protect you, I whispered, my voice filled with determination. I decided to give them a chance, but on my terms. I would protect my children, and I would protect myself, ensuring that the past wouldn't repeat itself. The new reality was a delicate dance, a careful balancing act between forgiveness and self-preservation. My parents' visits were infrequent, orchestrated on my terms, always in public places, always with clear boundaries. I watched them interact with my children, their eyes filled with a mixture of love and regret. My son and daughter, oblivious to the past, embraced their grandparents with an innocent affection that both warmed and chilled me. I observed my parents' attempts to rebuild the relationship they had so carelessly shattered, their efforts sometimes genuine, sometimes strained. I noticed the subtle ways they tried to insert themselves back into my life, the suggestions, the advice, the unspoken expectation that things could return to how they once were. But I was no longer the naive teenager they had abandoned. I had built a life, a family, a sense of self without them. I was strong, independent, and fiercely protective of my children. Their return was not a redemption arc for them, but a carefully managed interaction, a way to provide my children with the opportunity to know their grandparents while shielding them from the pain I had endured. Scene 12, a moment of reflection. One quiet evening, as I watched my children play in the park, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had led me to this moment. The setting sun cast long shadows, painting the playground in hues of orange and gold. My children's laughter filled the air, a sound that once felt so distant, so unattainable. I thought about the young woman I had been, the girl who had been cast out, alone and terrified. I thought about the strength I had discovered, the resilience I had cultivated, the unwavering love that had sustained me. I realized that my parents' return had not changed me. It had merely highlighted the person I had become. I had forgiven them, not for their sake, but for my own. I had released the bitterness and resentment that had weighed me down, allowing myself to move forward, to embrace the present. The scars remained, but they were no longer open wounds, but reminders of the battles I had fought and won. One afternoon, during a visit to the cafe, my mother attempted to bridge the gap between us, to understand the depth of my pain. "You know," she began, her voice soft, "we never stopped thinking about you. We didn't know how to fix it." I looked at her, my eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and understanding. "You didn't fix it," I replied, my voice calm. "I did. I built a life, a family without you. I learned to be strong, to be independent. I learned to be a mother." My mother's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of regret and admiration. "You're right," she said, her voice trembling. "You're so much stronger than I ever was." I reached across the table, taking her hand. "It's okay," I said, my voice filled with a quiet compassion. "We're here now. It wasn't a complete reconciliation, but it was a step forward, a moment of understanding, a recognition of the journey we had both taken." As I tucked my children into bed that night, I thought about the lessons I had learned, the wisdom I had gained. I realized that family wasn't just about blood, but about love, support, and unwavering loyalty. It was about showing up, not just when it was convenient, but when it was needed most. It was about accepting flaws, forgiving mistakes, and building bridges, not walls. I understood that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting, but about releasing the burden of the past, about choosing to move forward, to create a future filled with love and hope. I knew that my children would learn from my experiences, that they would understand the importance of resilience, the power of forgiveness, and the enduring strength of a mother's love. Years passed, and the relationship with my parents evolved, becoming a tapestry woven with threads of love, regret, and acceptance. They were grandparents to my children, a part of their lives, but not the central figures. I had established my boundaries, and they respected them. I had created a life filled with love, laughter, and purpose, a life that was mine, built on my own terms. The scars remained, but they were no longer painful reminders of the past, but badges of honor, symbols of my strength and resilience. As I looked back on my journey, I realized that I had not only survived, but thrived. I had transformed pain into power, vulnerability into strength, and abandonment into love. And in doing so, I had created a legacy of resilience, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Seen, back to present day, mother looking at camera. People will try to come back into your life when it's convenient for them, but you have the right to decide if they still belong there. So tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you forgive them? Let's talk in the comments. Years later, my children, now young adults, sat with me in the same cafe where I had once confronted my parents. They had grown into compassionate, thoughtful individuals, shaped by the stories I had shared. "Mom," my daughter began, her voice gentle, "did you ever truly forgive them?" I paused, considering her question. "Forgiveness isn't a single act," I replied. "It's a process, a journey. I forgave them for myself to release the pain, to move forward. But I also forgave them for you so you could know them, so you could understand the complexities of family." My son nodded. "We understand. We see how much you've grown, how strong you are. We're proud of you." I smiled, a warmth spreading through me. "And I'm proud of you," I said, "for understanding, for having empathy, for choosing to see the good in people even when it's hard." They asked me about the early days, about the hardship, about the strength it took to raise them alone. I recounted the tales not with bitterness, but with a sense of triumph, a testament to the power of resilience. One crisp autumn afternoon, my parents suggested a visit to my childhood home, now owned by another family. I hesitated, but agreed. As we walked through the familiar rooms, memories flooded back, both painful and poignant. My children listened intently as my parents shared stories of my childhood, stories I had long forgotten or perhaps suppressed. We stood in the living room where I had once played with my dolls, the room where my life had taken a dramatic turn. My father, his voice softer now, placed a hand on my shoulder. We were wrong, he said, but we're grateful for the second chance you gave us. I looked at him, and for the first time I saw not the stern, unyielding man of my youth, but a father filled with regret and love. We walked through the backyard, now overgrown with trees, and I pointed out the swing set where I had spent countless hours as a child. It was a moment of shared history, a moment of healing, a moment of understanding. As my children prepared to embark on their own journeys, I shared with them the lessons I had learned, the wisdom I had gained. Life will throw you curveballs, I told them. It will test your strength, challenge your resilience. But remember, you are stronger than you think. You are capable of overcoming any obstacle. You are loved. I emphasize the importance of self-reliance, of building a life on one's own terms, of choosing one's own path. Don't let anyone define you, I said. Don't let anyone dictate your worth. You are the author of your own story. I also spoke about the power of forgiveness, not as a sign of weakness, but as a testament to strength. Forgiveness is not about condoning wrongdoing. I explained it's about releasing the burden of the past, about choosing to move forward to create a future filled with love and hope. Years later, I watched my grandchildren play in the park, their laughter echoing through the air. It was a scene reminiscent of my own childhood, a reminder of the cyclical nature of family, of the enduring power of love. I thought about the choices I had made, the battles I had fought, the lessons I had learned. I realized that my story wasn't just about me, but about the generations that followed, about the legacy of strength, resilience, and forgiveness that I had passed down. I had broken the cycle of pain, and in doing so, I had created a future filled with hope. I had built a family not just of blood, but of love, understanding, and unwavering support. My story is a testament to the power of the human spirit, a reminder that we are capable of overcoming any obstacle, of transforming pain into power, of finding strength in vulnerability. It's a story about forgiveness, not as a single act, but as a journey, a process of healing and growth. It's a story about family, not just as a bond of blood, but as a tapestry woven with threads of love, support, and unwavering loyalty. And it's a story about hope, about the endearing belief that even in the darkest of times, light can always be found. So, I ask you again, if you were in my shoes, would you forgive them? And more importantly, would you forgive yourself? Because sometimes the hardest person to forgive is the one staring back at you in the mirror. Thank you for listening.